Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this brief video about our spring 2025 student surveys. Okay, so our student surveys are going to take place on Friday, April the 4th during 6th period. We are slightly modifying the schedule for 6th period. The times will be the same, so 10:45 to 1:20 as normal. However, there will not be advisory on that day to accommodate for the student surveys. So just know that that is going to impact your instructional time for that day, so plan accordingly. Survey time is going to happen, I'm saying roughly 11-ish to 11:30. Those times might start a little bit earlier and we might be able to return back to our normal rooms a little earlier. This is one of those ones where we can kind of plan in general. There is just a slight need for flexibility given how long these can or cannot take.
Hello, I'm here too. I'm going to add some things about computer usage. I will say that this time, 11:30, it might stretch all the way to 11:45 or up to a lunch because there will be several rooms that will be having to share computers. So once one student gets done with a survey, then they'll need to give it to another. But I will explain that towards the end of this video.
Lunch times are just being pushed back a bit. So A lunch will go to lunch at 11:45, B lunch at 12:20, and C lunch at 12:50 for that day. Well, I say our start time is roughly going to be 11-ish, but we will dismiss and release after the general announcements. So our student announcements that we normally have during 2nd and 6th. After those are read, then there will be an additional announcement. We will say at this time, it is time for teachers to switch to their partner's room for the student survey administration. So the students are going to stay put. They're going to stay exactly where they normally are. The teachers are going to be the ones who rotate to that other room. So just plan for the surveys to take about 30 minutes. That's about how much time we've needed in the past. There will be an additional announcement whenever that time is right and ready for teachers to rotate back to their normal rooms. So then after you rotate back, depending on when you have your lunch, will be when you start your instruction. Just as I mentioned previously, just know that your time will be reduced by a little bit to accommodate for the student surveys. The switch list is linked here, and then of course you will have copies of the slides, and the protocols will be linked here. You will also be, I'll send those out again via email and Teams the day of. This of course will also be, these slides and everything else will also be linked on the one-pager that is on your calendar invite that you will have as well. Okay, so this is how students are going to get to these surveys. They'll have to sign in through Clever. To get there, they'll be listed under the surveys tab whenever the students sign in there. Once they click on that, they're taken to the sign-in screen. They'll enter their ID number. Now, the kids try to put their ID number in for a time that is not designated for us or a day, then they'll get an error message, or if they've already done all their surveys, they'll get an error message. But otherwise, there shouldn't be any problems with signing in. They will be given 2 surveys to do. There'll be start surveys, and then they'll do one, and then they'll come back and do the second one. This is a general overview of what the questions look like. So there's, I want to say it's maybe 25 to 30-ish questions on the survey. Remember for this time that this is just kind of what it looks like, but as you're actively monitoring, you're not really supposed to be looking at who surveys the students are answering questions for, nor are you really supposed to pay too close attention to what the questions are themselves. When a student finishes their survey, they'll get this screen, and then just some reminders just to help for the make the survey experience just a little bit more accessible for our students. It is available in multiple languages, so the students can take it in Spanish should they wish, or another language of their choice, whatever they feel most comfortable with, and they can change that in the drop-down menu that is there on the survey platform. Students should be answering these questions independently without prompting or influence. So what you're allowed to do is that you can explain vocabulary. So if a student doesn't understand a question, they should skip it, but you are allowed to say if a kid doesn't know what a word means, you can define it for them if you feel comfortable doing so. But for the most part though, keep them moving. So you just tell the students, all right, so you should be continuing to work. So if you see a kid that's just not really working or keeping on pace, you are allowed to help kind of guide them to be like, all right, okay, we got to keep moving so we can finish these up, but don't rush them in that sense. Okay, and then just some other general reminders that I always give you at this time of year, because the party started and it hasn't stopped and it won't stop. If you're going to be out on a testing day, just let me know. Again, email me is the best way, so we have it all documented and I can go back and reference it as necessary and needed. If you are going to be out on this survey day, so if you are going to be out on the 4th, just make sure that you put this information in your sub plans.
Please, for the love of God, do this. Now look, Miss Robinson's going to say this a little bit nicer than I am. Please, for the love of God, if you're not going to be here Friday or any other testing day, let us know ahead of time, all right? and put these things, all of this information, in your sub plans. Cannot express enough how much more difficult and stressful it makes, particularly a morning when Miss Robinson has to run around to try to find somebody to replace you. So please let us know.
But thank you guys so much for your time for today, and thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Miss Robinson. I will be adding some things now regarding computer use. First, here are just some general understandings for the day. Number one, be prepared to have students share within the class. All right. After one finishes, another can pick up, log in with their information, and start and finish the survey. That's going to be happening in probably several classes just because of the logistical strain having everyone have to use a computer at the same time presents. So instead of asking for more computers or sending kids down for more computers, we don't have any more computers for them to get, so just have them share. After one finishes, another one can begin. In a pinch, we believe that they can access the survey on their phones. So if you don't have enough computers and you really want to get the kids started on it so they can get finished, they can also do this on their phones. They just have to follow the procedure and go through Clever and all of that. And so they can try that. Just make sure that they are actually doing the survey and not just on their phones to be on their phones. Best case scenario is a computer. Whether they do it on a computer or a phone, make sure that every student shows you this screen once they're done. All right. Thanks for taking our survey. Everybody should see that from every student in the room before we switch back. Cannot express how important it is that we have everybody who is present take this survey. So this is what you will see whenever you click on the Spring 2025 Student Survey Switches document. It's very simple to read. You've got your name and it says goes to what room. And then these two columns say whether the room has a cow or whether there is another cow or set of computers coming from somewhere else. And there are a few different possibilities of what you'll see here. If you have a Y in this column, column D, that means that you have a cow in that room and you're not sharing with anybody, so you should be good to go. Just use the cow. Very simple. If, like here, you see a Y BTech or Y desktops, that means that your students in this class should be BTech students that have their own computers. And again, if someone doesn't have a computer, they can borrow someone else's for the survey itself. Or you might see that you're in a room that has all desktops, in which case the students can use the desktops.
Then it gets a little bit hairy, all right?
You may be in a room that has a shared cow normally, and you will be splitting that cow between your room and another room that normally shares that cow as well. So for instance, if you are Ms. Hernandez and you're going to room A105, you are going to give 15 of the computers in A105 to B102 because those two classes normally share one cow. And again, that will mean that we will have less computers than we have students, but in that case, just have them trade off after one is finished with the survey, give it to another one. If you have nothing in the room has cow column, that means you are getting a cow or computers from somewhere else. And you'll see a few different things here. If you see a room number with a teacher's name, that means that that teacher does not have a sixth period and that teacher will be bringing their cow to you. These are math teachers and others that do not have a sixth period. So math teachers or other teachers on this list, that means Richards, Sales, Ms. Rodriguez-Rosas, Mr. Britton, Chang, Hamill, Tebow, Thomas, Bridges, Hitt, and Rickman. You guys, after fifth period, will need to bring your cow to this room right here. Take your cow to that room, and then all math teachers or anybody else that does not have a sixth period will need to report to B206 just in case we need you. Since we have some that are giving to another room, we also have some that are getting from another room, and I have those listed. So if you haven't gotten your 15 computers yet, that is the room where you will get those computers from. If you are a proctor of a student survey that is borrowing computers from somewhere else, make sure that those computers get back to those rooms safely in those cows. Math teachers and anybody else, you guys will need to go to these rooms to get your cow for seventh period. And we thank you in advance for your help with that.
Sound good?
Pretty clear as mud.
I think that should be everything. All right, let us know if you have any questions. We will be available. The big thing is that every student that is present does this survey by whatever means possible, and that all computers get back to where they belong afterwards. That's all from me. Be good to yourself and others, and I'll see you soon.